Welcome to the Popcorn Talk Network, for the online broadcast network that features movie discussion, news, and interviews. Press 1.
Popcorn Talk. We talk movies.
Congratulations. On behalf of the Popcorn Talk Network, the online broadcast network for movie talk, and the Schmoes know, you are now a member of the Jedi Alliance. May the Force be with you, always.
Hello there, and welcome to Jedi Alliance, a celebration of the greatest saga ever told, and soon there will be so much more saga to celebrate. Today we are going to be talking about the TV show Rebels and the upcoming movie Rogue One and how they might overlap, if at all. Please, I hope they do, but we'll talk about that more, plus news, fan questions, and all that stuff. I am one of your hosts. My name is Joseph Scrimshaw. Your other host is, of course...
Right here, the internet's Mark B. Donica. You can follow me on Twitter, at Mark B. Donica, and we are joined by John Rocha, one of our favorite guests.
Thank you.
I mean, you're one of the few people where I can go pro wrestling, right? And you're like, yeah, totally!
Let's do it!
And Star Wars. Yes. We need a Star Wars gimmick on TV somewhere.
Yeah, you are like a quadruple or higher threat, John.
Yeah,
thank you.
You're a very threatening man when it comes to talking about media.
You're an elevated threat.
You're an elevated threat level of a human being, John Rocha. Yes, you got the wrestling, you got the Star Wars, of course, which is why we have you here. We'll talk Star Wars. But also, new in your life is you have become part of the world of Harry Potter, right?
I have, over at Universal Studios. We're not officially open yet, but I have been over there working my job, which I can't say what it is specifically because I like to keep it. But I can say that I'm having a great time doing the show that I'm doing and being a part of that land. And let me tell you something, if you're a Potterhead and you want to experience this land, you've done the Orlando one, come and do the California, the LA one. I mean, it's not as big as the Orlando one, but it's still magical and fun.
And to be honest, even if you're not, because I'm kind of lukewarm on Harry Potter, I just haven't seen it all.
You're like a Potter half-head.
Yeah. But my fiance is, so we went like within the first week, and it's, as a theme park fan, you're like, how do they do this stuff?
Right.
It's got the most complex ride in North America.
Absolutely.
So if anybody happens to wander in, make sure to keep an eye out for Mr. John Rocha.
Yes.
So, John, you have a very distinct voice.
Thank you.
So when you perform at Harry Potter World, do sometimes people go, is that Wizard John Rocha?
Well, I have a British voice for the thing I'm performing, so if they find me, and the costume is so elaborate that I would be surprised if they could tell it was me, unless they actually knew.
Okay, can you just say Star Wars in a British accent?
Sure.
In your British accent.
Over here we have Star Wars, yes. So that would be, so if you hear that kind of timbre, then you know it's me.
I love the extra validation of your own sentence at the end. Yes.
That's who he is.
That's great. Well, thanks for joining us, John.
Thank you.
Jump into the news
Yes,
from there.
why don't we go straight to news from the HoloNet. News from all around the corners of the Star Wars universe. We last week reported on the Star Wars Blu-ray release, and we now have Target with an exclusive 20 minutes of features. It features an interview with John Boyega and Daisy Ridley, as well as, quote, a deeper look at the movie's weaponry. So do we...
This staff is still not Plagueus's. 20 minutes on that.
Probably. Do retail exclusive features / collectibles, like the Target version is going to come with mini versions of the posters. Does that affect where you buy movies?
Go ahead, John.
Yeah, I would say yes. In fact, when I saw that we were going to be talking about this, I immediately was like, oh, I've got to get it from Target then. I will absolutely buy it from Target. Because if you're a fan of whatever it is you're watching, you're going to watch, special features, behind-the-scenes stuff, it is actually a gift to yourself.
Yeah.
Because you can sit there and you don't even have to watch the movie first. A lot of times I will buy and watch the special features first and then watch the movie because that gets you so jonesing to watch the movie.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And it sounds like this is great stuff.
Yeah, I think this is the first physical media purchase that will be actually affected by that, because I haven't been as picky on other things. I'm not as huge a fan of other things that have had these kinds of promotion as I am with Star Wars. It sounded like there was one article that had said, oh, they're all going to have different special features. And then when I looked, it said, well, Best Buy is going to be a steelbook.
Yeah.
Like, I understand some people collect those, so that's great, and you want that kind of thing. But to me, yeah, it affects my choice of, like, I'd much rather have a closer look at weaponry than a steelbook.
Despite like in future editions of the Blu-ray being sort of regulated and all having the same amount of special features, like I figure sometime or another we're gonna get that feature on a disc.
Yeah.
Or somebody's gonna rip it and you'll be able to find it on YouTube Dailymotion or whatever illegally. Don't do that though. Don't do it. But
Big Brother Donica.
It mostly bothers me because I liked the cover that we featured last week of BB-8 because it fits in with the new design of all of the current Blu-rays.
And that's Walmart, right?
That's
And
Walmart.
Walmart has the BB-8 packaging.
Yes.
Yeah, so you get to choose between a steelbook, BB-8 packaging, or a bunch of extra content in a kind of weird Target cover.
Yeah.
Cool.
And it's smart because if you're a hardcore fan of the movie or hardcore fan of Star Wars, you want to have all three.
Yeah.
So they could easily just release it as is, and you can buy it anywhere.
Use
but now
the
you're
slip
like,
cover from the Walmart one and put it over the Target one, and then you're
Yes.
good.
This one includes a note from J.J. Abrams
Right.
insulting your mom. Get them all, because you'll buy it. It doesn't matter.
That's
You'll
the
buy
Amazon version. Also, we have first details on the first expansion for EA's Star Wars Battlefront. Greedo and Nien Nunb are going to be the first downloadable heroes. Needless to say, not what a lot of people were expecting, but you do get to fight. They're expanding Tatooine to include Jabba's palace and the sail barge.
Cool.
So, does this establish sort of the breadth of characters we'll see in the game? Who do you guys think is next if we're going to Greedo and Nien Nunb first?
Yeah, well, I haven't had a chance to play it kind of since we covered it on the show.
Yeah.
Do they have all of the main characters? Like, can you be Lando?
It's been the same. These are the first new characters.
These are the first new
Yeah, it's the
characters.
same
Okay.
6 that they launched with, and then these 2 are the first ones.
So it's skipping a couple
Yeah.
big names and costume changes, right?
Especially because the 2 species of each respective character
Yeah.
are available as character customization.
Rodian
A lot
and
of-
Solistans can
yes.
both be? Okay.
And a lot of folks are seeing that as lazy. Then
Oh.
you just make the body double because you already have the species programmed into it, and that's
Gotcha.
your new class, as opposed to maybe something unique
Right,
like a
so
Lando.
this could be any lousy Rodian who took Greedo's clothes after Han shot him first.
No, but it could be. But
Yeah.
they say that it's Greedo.
Let's not get into this, John. I think it is a weird first expansion, but it's cool to have characters with kind of flavors. Like I like having a sense of humor about playing video games, and to me, there's something funny wandering around trying to win as Greedo, who's famous for being shot.
Yeah.
You know, like that's his
Right,
character
exactly.
in the movie. He gets shot.
Yeah.
So there's something exciting to me about that.
Yeah.
And Nien Nunb, the way he's been expanded in the new books is having a little bit of a drinking habit.
Yeah.
That makes me excited to play
he's
him
like
and
a-
see if he's got some like weaving action.
Like a drunken master style sniper where
Yeah.
it's just kind of like the scope doesn't quite line up, but you still hit the shot.
Yeah.
That would work. Who would you want to see, John?
Well, I mean, I haven't seen, well, like you were saying, Lando.
Yeah,
He's not really
Lando.
a fighter, but once again, Akbar. Akbar is my guy. I'd like to go like a regressive Akbar would be fun. And where's Wedge?
Oh,
Wedge
yeah.
was
Hey,
in
Wedge.
the Red Squadron. Wedge
Yeah.
I don't understand why Wedge gets short shrift all the time. Like, does the actor play him? Did he have the licensing deal with his character?
Dennis
Like,
Lawson? No,
yeah,
I don't
just
think
don't
so.
understand why they don't have him on there. You know what I'm saying? And especially because it seems to focus very much on original trilogy characters.
Yeah.
And so I would think that it would be great to have Wedge on there.
Yeah.
And it'd be interesting for the bad guy side. Who else do we have?
Yeah, it seems like bounty hunters would be fun to me. Just
Yeah.
getting any of the kind of original bounty hunters from Empire Strikes Back
Sure.
would be really cool.
Who would be first draft pick bounty hunter?
Probably Bosk.
yeah, boss.
Yeah,
Okay,
I want to
cool.
see his claw wrapped around his blaster rifle, all weird.
Okay.
That would be fun. I mean, I gotta go with IG-88.
I was
I
just
thought
going to
you
say.
would. Yeah.
Gotta do it.
I got to step out and do that.
IG-88
myself.
actually would be great because
Yeah.
then he's easy to see around if you have any sort of third person modes.
Oh, yeah,
he doesn't block
definitely.
your view too much because he's a robot
Yeah.
pencil.
Yeah.
And you could use that strategically. So we're breaking up the news a little bit with some sad news. The designer / creator / builder of R2-D2, Tony Dyson, passed away this past week at age 68. Now, here's a guy who has made one of the most iconic characters of all time.
Yeah.
Like, regardless of fandom, somebody could look at that and go, "Oh yeah, that's R2-D2."
Absolutely.
100%. How has the character of R2-D2 affected your life? Like, because he's sort of we've joked that he's sort of like the team mom or just like the grizzled war hero that sort
Yeah.
of fixes the galaxy. How does that apply to you in a non-Star Wars sense?
Well, I think he's just such a great example of just competence and loyalty and of just quietly getting crap done that, you know, when you reflect on something you like Star Wars and try to pick out qualities, it's cool to see somebody who's not making a lot of noise, but is really, I mean, he does make a lot of noise, but, you know, he just quietly is getting things done and always kind of knows what needs to happen.
Yeah.
And I feel like I could work on that, incorporating that in my life. I think there's also something inspiring about that he kind of just has an appendage for everything. And I want to believe that about myself. Like, if I really think about it, there's an appendage in here that could take care of this problem.
We wish we could be as prepared as R2 is for everyday life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I enjoy him. I think he's great. He's always, whenever you see him, there's always that feeling of like just comfort, you know. And the thing that's been great is he has always been. It's one of those rare characters in all properties where he's 100% liked. I would challenge you to find someone who does not like R2D2.
Right.
You can go back and forth on C-3PO, absolutely, but R2D2 has this incredible confidence for a droid. I mean, this is a droid, but it has almost human personalities, and people love him in a very human way, and that's what I think he's always conveyed for me. Is when I see him, he is like going back home. It's just this kind of thing, and also it's amazing. Every droid is compared to him.
Right.
And you can't say that about a lot of the other characters in Star Wars. Like, it's every droid that shows up. Is it an R2 droid? What kind of R2? What's the personality of R2 droid? Because you have such a great foundation already.
Yeah.
And one of the first storylines from the Clone Wars TV series that I remember was that I got super attached to the show was when R2 went missing.
Yeah.
And Anakin was like, no, you don't get it. Gotta find this guy.
Right, and everybody's like, how can you be so attached to a droid? And you're like, you don't get it. He's super awesome.
Don't understand.
Yeah.
Probably the coolest guy.
Yeah, R2 would always help you move. I think that's how I think of R2, yeah.
And speaking to the human quality of it, in episode 4, when he's rolling through the desert, like trying to find Ben, and it's just like this sort of voyeur shots of the Jawas looking at him. You get scared for him just because of the way that it's shot, and you hear the little whimpers. It's an amazing character that we wouldn't have without this man, Tony Dyson. So cheers to you, sir. Big bucket of win. Thank you for everything you contributed to culture in general, just with the creation of one character.
Yeah.
What a person. What a guy. Moving on from there, on the Oscars red carpet, Daisy Ridley revealed to MTV that Episode 8 is going to begin exactly where Episode 7 where it left off.
Yeah, no, she didn't literally say those words, right?
No,
but
she didn't say them exactly.
Everything she said adds up to that, right?
Without saying exactly, like, oh yeah, no, the camera's going to be up and my hand's going to be out, and then he's going to talk. Finally.
So she said that they were basically reshooting that same scene with the whole new crew that had been brought in because of the new director. So that's what she was talking about, right? Yeah. Am I remembering correctly that she was kind of talking about the experience of shooting with the new crew, and she referred to it as the start of Episode 8. We're reshooting that same scene.
So it could, like, it's been construed several ways.
Yeah.
But I mean, in terms of, is it the start of shooting Episode 8, or is it the exact start?
So
of
there's
the film?
definitely some wiggle room, but it's a logical interpretation that she's implying that maybe the film will start right where Episode 7 ended, which is really cool.
She's usually very upfront about facts, even when, like, not quite Benicio del Toro's like, I should probably stop talking, but she says
my
enough
character dies at minute blah blah blah. Benicio.
But she says enough to where people are like, okay, cool, whatever, that's fine. It's Daisy. She's a great face forward for the franchise.
Yeah.
So if this is the case and Episode 8 picks up right after, what should the opening crawl address? Will there be a purpose for it?
Yeah, see, I would love to see, I've said this before on the show, I would love to see like a James Bond like teaser cold open where it just fades in and the whole theater is amazed that it's not bam Star Wars, that we have a little bit of a scene there with Luke and Rey, and then we go to our crawl.
And then we jump forward?
Yeah, and then we jump forward in time.
Yeah.
Because I think they set themselves up with this unique cliffhanger in Star Wars land where you want to see the next moment.
Yeah.
And it took me a little while to think that through, because when I first left the theater, it's like, oh, cool, we're set up for this journey. We'll jump in and she'll be... And then I realized, no, how cheated I'll feel if I don't hear that first word out of Luke's mouth.
Right.
So I really hope that's my pitch.
Hard to beat that. To, like, truthfully, if Yeah, no, you won.
Yeah.
You won the conversation.
Well, it's not a contest, but
No, but-
otherwise, like, what would the crawl be, John? If,
Yeah.
if they were starting, what would the crawl be? Like, remember
This-
back in 2015?
Well, listen, we sometimes forget, like, there's something nice about seeing that crawl and seeing it relay what's already happened, and then
Right.
seeing it, like, flesh out a little bit of what's going on behind the scenes. Because it can say, like, oh, Luke, blah, blah, when last we were here, but then it's like, well, what are Leia and them doing? What are all the other people doing?
Right.
And, you know, what has been the, like, where's Snoke with Kylo? Like, where are they at? So there's stuff you can add that in the crawl, you know. Meanwhile, Snoke is blah blah blah, you know. So
Yeah.
I think it's a great idea what you're saying. There's no way
Yeah.
to do that because we've come to love the crawl, and the crawl is going to start the show. And so, if they did that, though, I would immediately think of Joseph Scrimshaw. Yeah.
Oh, awesome. Awesome. It's
Points.
an amazing question because they need to play with some elements of the formula to
Right.
keep it fresh.
Yeah.
But then what are the things that you just like, you can't touch that. That's
Right.
untouchable. I suppose that you can also imagine that there is time in between when Rey gets back
That's
to
what I was going to say. Is
the
do we know
Dakar base.
how much time has passed?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because that could have been the time skip before episode 8. Right?
Yeah.
Oh, you already got that. So here's what happened in between there.
Yeah. Interesting.
Yeah. And our last story of the day from Entertainment Weekly, a 5-issue Han Solo comic book series is going to take place between episodes 4 and 5, and that's going to come out later this year. The story is going to be this Dragon Void run, which is something that Han's been wanting to do for a long time. I assume comparable to the Kessel run. But Leia has a mission that only he can do. So he's kind of pulled between the two, like, well, I kind of like this girl, but this race, though, like...
Right, so he's supposed to be doing the race as cover for rebellion operations, but he's like, damn, I just want to straight up do the race and win it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's a great pitch.
Space Fast and the Furious, essentially.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to this because I'm sorry, were you going to say?
No, go ahead.
I'm looking forward to this because I read the interview with her and she said Cannonball Run is what gave her the inspiration for this
Yeah.
script, for this story arc. And I'm like, oh my gosh, this is brilliant. If they're gonna, because they asked her if it is going to be funny like Cannonball Run. She says, well, no, it's going to be like an action adventure thing, but it'll have moments of humor because of Solo. I just want Captain USA to show whatever Don DeLuise played. I mean,
Yeah.
that's a little
And the monkey, right? There's the monkey,
right?
yeah.
Jackie Chan. I mean, all these things that showed up in the Cannonball Run series that is very funny, and I just love that that's an idea that's still around in people's minds. You know,
I mean,
And so-
that movie did so much for films, and
Yeah.
people don't really give it that much credit. Better Cannonball Run than Wacky Races.
Yeah.
That's all I'm
Well,
saying.
and I think it shows just that everybody involved with creating Star Wars is doing a great job of saying what other kind of genre stories do we like that we can map the Star Wars universe onto to keep it fresh and fun but still feel familiar. The coolest thing to me about this is we've seen in lots of books that are canon and not canon now, and even in the movie, Han pulled between like a sense of duty and taking care of some scummy business.
Yeah.
But this is something that's relatable that we all want to win. Like, this isn't doing something criminal. This isn't paying off a debt. This is a competition from my other life that I would just really like to win this.
Yeah.
And I
need
think
this.
it's cool because it's a little bit more, it's a part of his rogue, scoundrel, smuggler life that is a little bit more like pro-social and relatable. We can all relate to like, hey, you're playing this amazing football game and we need you to throw it for the good of the people. Like, football is not inherently evil or scummy like some of the other things that Han has been involved in.
Yeah.
So it's really cool to see that moral.
And also him being this being in between 4 and 5, he just had a big sort of self-revelation of, oh, maybe I do believe in this 4 stuff. Maybe I do have like a better purpose, and this could be the thing that drags him back down, and he could have a really cool character self-revelation that pulls him back to like, no, I'm better as the person that I am than the person that I was.
Yeah.
So that could be a fun story element. But ever since you like talking about Cannonball Run, I would rather see this as the Han Solo movie than anything that they may have planned.
That's a great idea.
Yeah, I mean, I think if this was
in there.
I think if this was stepping on the Han Solo movie too much, we wouldn't be seeing it. So I think in a
that's
way,
right.
this is kind of news about the Han Solo movie
Exactly.
that it's probably going to be pre A New Hope. You know?
Well, and I think this is also great to follow on your point, Joseph. The idea that we're getting a more fleshed out Han Solo character, we're getting a window into his personality, because obviously there's a gap between New Hope and Empire, and what happened during that gap. You got to fill in those missing years, and he's not just going to all of a sudden turn and be this person right for the rebels. He spent years, decades honing this part of his personality, being this kind of like shady smuggler, and so why would he all of a sudden turn and be good? Like he's gonna struggle with that, and that's what makes Han Solo one of the most fantastic characters in this franchise, in this property, because you never know what he's gonna do. He always does the right thing, but you never know how he's gonna get there.
But will he?
You're right, exactly.
And what percentage of the right thing, you know? Because Han Solo's got wiggle room.
Yeah, even in Force Awakens, he says to Leia, like, I'm going to get there, you're just not going to like how I'm going to do it. And that's Solo.
That's Han Solo. Yeah. That's awesome. All right, so that's it for news, right?
That's it for news.
Awesome. We're going to move on then to our main topic for today, which is talking a little bit kind of about this period in time of Star Wars. We've got this great Rebels TV show that is covering how the rebellion is building up. We know we're getting Rogue One. It's going to tell the story of how the rebels got the plans to the Death Star in the first place. So we're going to talk about how they could overlap, if they're going to overlap at all. But first, I just wanted to get you guys' temperature on the last few episodes of Rebels. It feels like it's really been kicking into gear and has actually been getting into a lot of kind of fun, deep canon stuff. Have you guys been enjoying these last couple episodes?
Oh, go ahead, Mark.
So, I mean, we're both going to say the same thing.
Yeah.
Totally. When we talked about that trailer before the second half of the season started, there was all of this stuff that we were like, oh, this is going to be huge, and we find out recently that it's all in one episode, which was like, well, what else are we going to see? And what, like, they're using their time wonderfully, and all of the story stuff that's coming up with it is just like mind-blowing.
Cool.
Yeah. Very cool.
Absolutely. I've been loving the last few episodes, definitely. And what's interesting is they're starting to make the connective tissues tissues to all the other films and to what might be coming. They're laying a little bit of groundwork, and you can see it just piece by piece, little steps, little seeds here and there, that if you're watching closely enough, you're picking stuff up as you're watching, going, oh, how's that going to play out, or where's that going to work? And I spoke with one of the writers at Comic-Con this past year. We sat down for like half an hour at a bar and just talked. And we were just talking about it, and I told him how I was on another show and how deep I'm into Rebels, and he said, you just wait. This season, if you like the darkness that ended the first season, you just wait. When we make that turn, it gets real dark this season. And I was like, oh man. And the last few episodes, you can see that coming, especially with the last episode with Ahsoka Tano and Vader. You know that confrontation is coming. And they're laying the groundwork by showing you more and more flashbacks.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, and I like how they have been sort of establishing that Kanan and Ezra are getting more and more powerful, but still not powerful enough. They're like, we can just kind of hold the Inquisitors at bay, but we can't take them out.
Yeah.
And it adds this nice feeling of desperation of our heroes are awesome and amazing, but not awesome and amazing enough.
Yeah.
The other just little canon thing that sort of blew my mind in its sort of depth and connection to all different canons from different pieces is the second to last episode from the ones that have been broadcast.
Yeah.
There was they went to Geonosis. They didn't actually land on Geonosis, but they talked about something being built there.
Yeah.
And we know from the book Tarkin that is the Death Star.
Yeah.
And then the Geonosians are just gone. And we know from Clone Wars that they had some sort of hive mind from the Geonosian Queen. So it was fascinating to have this just sort of like drive-by, throwaway thing that connects to the huge important canon of the Death Star. Huge important characters from the prequels of why are the Geonosians gone? And I enjoyed the rest of the episode, but just like, tell me about the Geonosians. I really like the Geonosians and their brainworms and their zombie things. And come on, more Geonosians. So I thought that was really, really cool. The Grand Inquisitor being a Jedi,
Former
perhaps?
Jedi, possibly.
That was...
And even more so being a temple guard, which is such a high position and a trusted position. How far did he fall?
Yeah.
Like, wow.
Yeah, and it's also really great to see a lot more just sort of temple business, because that might be a big part of Episode 8.
Right.
So want to get a little bit into the connections then between Rebels and Rogue One. It seems like we have got a lot of information about the television shows drawing from the books, being very aware of the movies, pulling things in from the movies to attract viewers. But it seems like there hasn't been any confirmation of the movies talking to the TV shows, that it's kind of one directional right now, which is interesting to me because that is the Marvel relationship as well, where the it's one way.
Yeah.
It's one way. So why do you think that they are following that policy on purpose?
It's interesting. I think they're talking, but they're not talking. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, I think they're kind of playing the game in a certain way. Even we're referring the lady who wrote the Han Solo series that we just mentioned. She was not shown the film ahead of time.
Yeah,
she was not. She didn't know what was going to happen to Han in the film, and so they're keeping certain people in the dark on purpose. But I think those people probably have the channels to go like, listen, we want to do this with this character. Is that cool? And then they're waiting for a day, for that whole huge email chain to come back to them and saying like, you can do this, but you can't do this. You can do this, but you can't do this. And that's what it feels like. That's how they're playing this out. So they have plausible deniability.
Yeah. You have thoughts, Mark?
Yeah, I think I hope that they're not following the Marvel model. While the with Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. and Agent Carter even did had a channel back into the movies.
Right.
So it's really only with S.H.I.E.L.D., but they developed so much from original characters that it's like, oh, now if we had Thor show up, nobody will care. So, but with Rebels, it's so tied to Darth Vader and Anakin Skywalker and maybe Darth Maul, maybe, and even Leia Organa. So it's so ingrained with the universe that we already know. It seems criminal to not have a couple of the things like maybe have a Lasat show up in Rogue One or something.
Right.
Just something small to be like, I knew it. But it seems like Rebels is functioning as a what's Legends and what's not right now.
Yeah. And I think maybe it's just that they want to keep the machinery of the movies totally separate. So if they get a really great idea, that they can have a little bit more freedom. Because Pablo Hidalgo, who's on the story group and keeps track of canon, he's a great follow on Twitter. If you're a Star Wars fan, you're not following him. He's hilarious and really insightful and very patient, because every time anything Star Wars comes out, people tweet jokes at him like, is this canon? Like, is this dumb joke canon? He's very patient. But he tweeted a couple times about how little bits of the Rebels TV show had to have discussions with books that came out a year and a half ago. And then when you see something that like, oh, that one line in this episode confirms something in Tarkin that came out a year and a half ago, you start to get a sense of how interconnected the web is. So I wonder if it's not like that the movies just want to have a little bit more creative freedom, almost from a bureaucratic standpoint of like, we just don't want to get too tied up into all this. But part of the reason I wanted to talk about this is I agree with you, Mark. It seems weird to invest so much time in these characters who are building up what the rebellion is, and then we finally get to see on the screen this big story of the rebellion, and then they're just not there. So if you guys were going to include Rebel characters from the TV show Rebels in Rogue One, who would you want to include, and how would you want to do it?
Well, assuming Ahsoka survives this season, she's my first choice. I absolutely love her as a character from Clone Wars, and we have seen her, as fans of Clone Wars and then Rebels now, we have seen her progression from an uppity young, Padawan
from Snips.
Yeah, from Snips to what she is now, which is a very composed warrior, and it's great to see that. So I would love to see Sabine. I'd love to see Hera. Those are great characters. I don't know if Kanan's going to survive. I don't know what happens with Ezra. But in terms of Rogue One, I would like to see more of the female characters in that because it seems very male heavy. The bounty hunter cast.
Picture,
yeah. So I would like to see more of that.
I think at the very, very, very least, if it's like teams have to be kept on their own mission and can't have any association with any other teams, you would see some tagging in the background. You would see Ezra's helmet left in a hangar.
Yep.
You would see this, that, the other thing. But at the very most, I agree. If there, especially from what we've learned about Hera this past season, she's without a doubt. If you have to pick one, Hera's got to be the character in there who's running the fleet. And I would want nothing more than her to be Team Mom on the big screen. But I totally agree with Ahsoka, because she, as kind of confirmed in the last episode, she has no affiliation. Yeah. She has lightsabers, but she doesn't consider herself a Jedi.
She wouldn't go in the temple. She wouldn't open the temple.
No.
Yeah, wouldn't or couldn't.
That's you guys.
Yeah, which I like the ambiguity of it. Like, you Jedi do the Jedi stuff.
Yeah.
I would love to see like Sabine in almost like a Lando role or that, the kind of that just not a huge screen time, but just the person who's there who is needs to help our main characters out on some kind of little journey, a nice little B character, B story. And failing that, because I don't think we're going to get a main character, because I think for whatever reason, be it creative or bureaucratic, they're kind of keeping them separated. Yeah. I would love... What you're basically arguing, Mark, for like something that can be added in post, even to like a tag on the wall or a helmet in the background.
Very least, if there's somebody in the CG department who's just a huge Rebels fan, just go, okay, I'm going to put one of Sabine's things on the wall.
Yeah.
At the very least. But I want the characters to be involved, because at this point, Freddie Prinze Jr. is almost age appropriate just to be Kanan on the big screen.
Yeah.
And it's a wonder what makeup can do to give him that pronounced nose. But yeah, it really could go any way, but this is their opportunity, and I think we'll find out what their overall goal is with Rebels upon the release of Rogue One.
Yeah.
And I've always felt Rebels is like, it seems to be what it's becoming now is almost like AAA for the majors. Like they're introducing these characters, and I don't mean in terms of quality. It's a great show. I love the show, but they're introducing characters to see fan reaction. You know, the last few episodes is what we've been talking about centrally. It's been so fun to see them explore the backstory of Hera, the backstory of Zeb, the backstory of all the Sabine. The Mandalorian stuff was so awesome. The clan that she was from, this whole like battle, one-on-one battle that hasn't been seen since the Clone Wars. Like all this stuff that they've been doing through this whole second season, including background on the clones. You know, it's and then you had when Zeb and Callus were caught on having the enemy mine scenario on Geonosia. It was great to see all of that happen, because what you're doing is really fleshing these characters out and making them more interesting and attractive to watch, and you're almost laying the groundwork that when they appear on screen, we who've watched already have that built in as soon as we see their face.
And I think that's what I want more than anything. I would prefer it with a character, but I'd take it with a tag on the wall from Sabine. I just want something where it's basically Lucasfilm popping up and going, "We validate you. We know you've been watching. Real. We know you care. It is the same universe. It's the same galaxy. Trust us. It's all going to be okay." Mark, I was really interested in what you were saying, and it was a question I wanted to bring up. It seems to me it would be really cool to use Rogue One to foreshadow what is going to happen in Rebels, and to just make you question, because we have heard from various sources that Rebels is going to run for at least 5 or 6 seasons. At least that's their goal, unless there's some horrible catastrophe. So if we did see a broken, depressed Hera in a bar with no one else, that would be really cool.
Or with like scars or an eye patch, or some physical harm that has come to some member of the crew that you see. You just go, well, crap! Now I have to. I will watch every episode live as it airs and record it and buy every DVD just to find out any little thing.
Yeah,
it's a good way to connect the universe.
Yeah, and I think there are plenty of ways to do it where you don't have to have all that knowledge of television, which I think is another thing that they don't want to have it be. You have to have watched Rebels to understand it.
Look at that character all beat up. You go, something bad happened to her.
Yeah,
just something,
and it'll happen in season 4, episode.
Well, and the thing we saw with which they keep teasing, and I keep believing that Ezra's going to turn. Like, I just keep believing this.
Well,
they
made
allusions to it with him holding the red lightsaber and throwing it away, and they made allusions to it when I think it was it the temple guard who said to him, like, well, it's going to help him when he turns. Yeah,
and that was not even an illusion. That was like, go kill him because he's going to turn evil.
Yeah, and that to me was like, see, I've been saying this from the beginning. He's going to turn.
Months ago, you called this.
Yeah, it will be interesting to see how, if they do take this to that would make sense to end the journey, the 5-year journey, and why they don't show up in New Hope, why we don't see them. Something could have happened. And seeing Hera in the bar would be perfect, because why wouldn't she become an alcoholic if this kid who she trusted and loved and cared for ended up turning? There was nothing they could do.
Yeah, if even at the end of the movie the plan is to bring it to Obi-Wan because he is truly the only Jedi left, then, since now Leia has met our heroes, then we know that she knows that something happened to him. How organized do you want to see the rebellion in Rogue One in comparison to how it's being built up in Rebels? Because Rebels, we're seeing all of our old characters, our new characters, we're getting to like them, but it is ostensibly, it's called Rebels in the arc, is the construction of the rebellion. So do you think that it is in better shape, like more fully formed as a military in Rogue One? Do you think it's still little separate cells? Do you think it's battered down to being even more ragged than what we're seeing now? What do you guys think?
I think by the time we hit Rogue One, I mean, we're gonna have the base on Yavin 4, right?
Yeah.
So
In theory.
In theory. So I figure they've gotten to a point where we're like, this kind of looks like military. Think so? Yeah, that's good enough for me.
General military agreement.
Yeah, just like this is, I think we got it. Yeah, we got it. I don't think it's going to be anything super organized like we see from the Empire. It's still going to have the feeling of ragtag group of rebels. So I think maybe somebody's jumpsuit's not the right size, or it's just small things that make you go, wow, they really just picked these guys up on the street.
Yeah. Right.
Well, it happens, and the thing is, the appeal of the rebels is they are a ragtag bunch of city-states, and they're not necessarily a full unit by this time, and because they have to have time to amorphously and organically come together and create and trial and error figure out how to be a movement that actually can work, which is what we see in New Hope, a little bit more well-oiled, and then obviously as the trilogy progresses, we see its true power. But I think it would lose its status with us as an underdog if it came off as this well-oiled military machine right off the bat. We'd see it as formidable.
Right.
And if we see it as formidable, then we have to choose sides between equal people, and there isn't necessarily that kind of stuff. Which is why I enjoyed the episode 2 episodes ago, exploring why Jarrus is the way he is and why Zeb is the way he is. Like, I love that they explore that, because one man's terrorist is another man's freedom fighter. It's just, and I love that Star Wars, even on an animated show on Disney XD, is giving you that idea. They're making you grow up a little bit, and I applaud them for that. So I think they're still going to be a little haphazard and frazzled as a rebellion.
Yeah. I hope they live up to like the crawl from A New Hope of like in their first major victory.
Yes.
Where that it is an underdog story in the movie where even though we know they're going to win, we feel like they're not going to.
Right.
And of course they do. Do you guys want to see Inquisitors still around in Rogue One, or do you feel like that's just not what this movie is? This movie is anti-Jedi. And do you want to just leave the fate of the Inquisitors for Rebels and books and comic books and
I mean, that would
the back of pillowcases probably?
That would be another thing that legitimizes Rebels, is if there's one Inquisitor left, and that makes you go, oh, well, if there's one of them left, then there's who's left of our friends.
Yeah.
But I mean, Disney is utilizing the Rebels brand in all of their marketing. Like, it surprised me at the Disneyland setup that they have on display all of the literally all of the lightsabers that ever appear on screen, and they included an Inquisitor one. I was like, that's cool, and that's really validating. So I think if anything, there's a chance, but I would say closer to 40%.
Yeah.
That.
Yeah.
He would be gone probably within the first half of the movie, just to make room for, if he's gone, Vader is left.
Well, and also, every season they keep changing the look and the appearance of the Inquisitors, right? So who knows what they're going to look like by the time we get to the 5th season, and if they're going to show up in Rogue One, is that going to be an echo to what they might look like 3 seasons down the road? That'll be fascinating to see if they take the chance to do that. What you were mentioning earlier, Joseph, about tying the movies back into the show to validate the fact that you've been watching the show.
Yeah.
So if Inquisitor shows up and they have a weird look and they're called the Inquisitor, you're like, oh man, I can't wait till that shows up.
Yeah.
And so because it's of the timeline.
Now, John, do you believe the heavy rumors that Vader is going to play into Rogue One?
Yes.
And do you want him to?
Absolutely. But as long as James Earl Jones is still alive and doing the voice, I'm happy to have this happen.
Okay. There are a couple of good voice doubles, but there's something about him.
Yeah,
that's
what
just
the gravitas, man.
chilling.
Yeah. Do you guys want Han to pop up in either Rebels or Rogue One? And if so, which one?
If they've cast him by then, which I guess was the whole point of them doing the casting, right?
That was the rumor. That was the scuttlebutt and the guess that why not cast him so we can follow that Marvel model and get him in a movie?
Yeah, like Spider-Man and stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, I'd be happy to have Solo show up in a cameo, but not anything substantive just yet.
I'd say have the Millennium Falcon flying in the background, but don't have anybody getting off of that ship. Or maybe as a smuggler, he's running supplies to. Oh, I guess I'm working for the Rebels today. Oh, I guess I'm working for the Empire today.
Yeah.
Just like, you got your shipment, and then it's something that small, cool, down. But not. I'm still just.
Mark is visibly annoyed by this question.
I mean, if it's the idea that there was a possibility in the prequels for that, and being very happy that didn't happen.
Yeah.
It's. I trust this creative team. So I hope that it wouldn't be something that's just like, oh, look, everybody is young Han Solo. Movie coming out in 2 years. Buy the toys, pre-order tickets now. Like, as long as it's nothing like that and super showy, sure.
Yeah. How about, do you want him in Rebels? Because Rebels has certainly shown its willingness to dump in classic characers. Oh,
I've been dying.
John, you were biting your lip like Poe does in that GIF.
Take my jag. No, I've been dying for him to show up in Rebels, like just dying, because as soon as Leia showed up, I was like, the door is open now,
right?
And I want him to show up. And they've obviously I'm certain there are plenty of people who voiced him, and so there's no reason he shouldn't show up. You've got Vader who showed up, you've got Leia who showed up, Yoda showed up, you've got Anakin has showed up. So there's definitely a lot of people from that universe that have already showed up. So why not have Solo show up in some form? And it would be the probably highest rated one episode of Rebels up to that point when he shows up, and Kenobi's in play, Luke is in play, like everything is in play on Rebels, I think, at some point down the road, and so why not Solo?
Yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome. So if Rogue One is going to foreshadow what's going to happen in Rebels, how would you want it to do it, or what would you want to learn? We've been talking about seeing characters and seeing damage and being able to infer what happened to them. Is there anything else you want to see in terms of foreshadowing?
I don't, Mark.
I don't think so, because they don't want to tell you the ending, like the exact ending.
Yeah.
So in that regard, they would have to show maybe, if anything, the ghost flying around.
Yeah.
But just to be like, oh, we don't know who's in there, but the ghost is still around, so somebody who knows how to pilot should be in there, and maybe Chopper hanging up off top. Who knows? But
that would be great. Just Chopper hanging out in a bar. I think I'm going to change all my answers to just one. I want Han Solo and Chopper to be drinking together in a bar.
Shots of oil.
But yeah, not too much. If we're not going to get characters in the movie, show us the ghost on screen to give us that hope of maybe this could work as a property here too.
Yeah. I'd be cool with that. Or the temple that they keep going to. The temple, I wouldn't mind seeing something referred to there. It depends on. I mean, they're all down on the ground,
right?
Mercenaries or bounty hunters or what have you. So they're going to be roaming around certain planets and seeing certain environments. And so why wouldn't the temple be in play? That would be awesome to see that.
Yeah,
especially because they keep stressing it so much this season.
Do you think that might come into play for Episode 8, since we know that temples are of significance? We're learning kind of more about them through Rebels. Would you want to see the temple guards and all that pop up in Episode 8, or is that too much television getting into the movies for your taste?
I think it's time.
Yeah.
Honestly, like, we've got to make the franchise exist and live and keep going. You've got to explore the stuff that you've already opened up on other media. It just only makes sense.
Right.
And we have not explored enough about the Jedi. And I think it's fair to kind of, the fact that they're putting a more critical look at the Jedi. I love that that's happening now, because it's logically, you can't stay stagnant, or else people get bored, or else you're doing Jason 10 in Manhattan in outer space. It's just the same formula.
Excuse me, sir. Jason X.
Oh, sorry, Jason X.
Very much.
Right. So you'll fall into that trap. And so what's so great about the Star Wars franchise? Why there's multiple podcasts? Why you guys do this show is because there are so many worlds, planets, environments, characters, storylines to explore, and now the Old Republic. So there's so much.
Yeah, that they haven't even really truly deeply tapped into. They're referring to some things. But so I mentioned earlier Pablo Hidalgo clarifying that they're really working in concert with the books and Rebels to make sure that everything works. Is there any bit of canon confusion that you would like Rebels to just be used as a blunt weapon to clear up that sort of question of canon that you've had? Anything like that?
I have to defer to Mark on this one.
Really?
Yeah, I'm not sure what they could bust up.
I thought of this question because it was an intriguing question to me, and then the more I thought about it, A New Hope is pretty tight, I think, in terms of canon. There's not a lot of like loose strings or missing stuff. The only thing that I really thought of is politics, and that's partially just because I'm a monster, and I want more politics in Star Wars. The dangerous scenes of politics. We talked last week about how I'd be really happy to see more politics and political stuff in Episode 8, and I would be happy to see Rebels start to dip its toe into that, because it would be fun for me to see how is like Bail Organa in Mon Mothma trying to continue to pretend to be a part of the official government while clearly doing all the rebel stuff. That would be really cool.
Political
for me to
intrigue,
see.
House of Cardsy types of stuff.
Yes, yeah, exactly. I want Palpatine to turn to the camera and talk to me about his evil plans.
I thought of one, and it's about a good friend, Darth Maul.
Hello.
No, like really, because there's a really awesome fan film that came out.
Oh,
I think
yes.
maybe today.
Yes, it came out yesterday.
Did you watch it?
Yes.
Okay, so and I
So
just I know
good.
you still
I haven't
haven't
had
to
a
watch
chance
it
yet.
But it shows him still kind of as a dark side Padawan as in a way, but we still don't really have a concrete thing of is he alive or is he dead?
Right.
Because we have teases that he may be showing up in Rebels, but that's not for sure. And if he shows up as like the last major Sith threat, like, and still Darth Vader just like wipes the floor with him.
Yeah.
If he's like the last vestiges of the Clone War era, of the prequel era, I think, and we get that final, nope, he's dead.
Yeah.
Then we could also have that everything in between that we've seen him in
Yeah.
is all true.
Yeah.
Because as of right now, he's still technically Legends alive.
No,
You know?
I mean, he's alive through the Clone
alive,
Wars.
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, so he's alive through the Clone Wars and up through the Son of Dathomir
Yeah.
comic is canon. But there's a lot that we don't know that we
Yeah.
could figure out by spending more quality time with Darth Maul. And I love that idea of Vader killing him. That it could be this kind of vicious, and this is where the prequels end, and this is where the classic trilogy begins, when Darth Maul's head goes a rolling.
And he presents it to his master like, "Hey, I found your old apprentice."
Yeah.
Like something really, really stupid like that.
And then Palpatine turns to the camera like House of Cards. Like, exactly as I have planned.
Is this now the canon stuff? Where you mean in Rogue or do you mean in Rebels?
Either.
I mean, Rogue One certainly.
Okay.
I feel like Rogue One is going to be out to blaze its own trail, but
Yeah.
it seems like getting those tweets from Pablo Hidalgo clarifying we made revisions to this episode of Rebels.
Yeah.
A year and a half ago
Yeah.
because these books were coming out.
Yeah.
And he's mentioned that a couple times now. So just to have the confirmation that at least the TV show and the books, maybe the movies have a little bit more freedom.
Yeah.
Of like, whatever you put in a movie, that's canon.
Right.
But maybe those are the big players and they have elbow room. So if, Rian Johnson decides, I really need this character to be here,
Yeah.
and I'm not going to bother with the bureaucracy, you guys will make it work.
Yeah.
But for the books and the TV shows being so tied together, it just seems like a for being pedantic.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
we can really make this whatever we want. Clean up.
I'd be surprised with them introducing Greedo in the Battlefront. That isn't a strategic idea, a strategic decision. Like that they're going to want to explore that more and flesh that character out more and see that character come up and become a more predominant force in whatever media they're going to.
that would be
build
really
up
cool.
his idea as a threat. So
Right,
when you
so
do
that-
see him in episode 4, you're like, that guy.
Yeah.
As
Oh,
opposed to
yeah.
like, oh, he's gonna die.
Yeah, and then Han really needs to shoot him, regardless of whether Greedo shoots
He's got a real
first or at the
shootable-
same time.
He's got a real shootable face.
He does have a shootable face. Yeah.
Him and Lando are the two people that I want to see explored more through the through Rebels and through other media that's available. Because I love the Lando limited series. It was such a great shout to 70s style. It was brilliant, and the smooth talking, like all that stuff. There has to be more of that. So when he pops up on Rebels, it's always great because they're always adding a little bit more layers to him. And so those are it's not so much events; it's more characters that I want to see explore in canon with the shows and the movies.
Cool. Yeah, and more legends being brought into canon.
Right.
More confirmation.
Yeah, and there keeps being more and more of that, which is awesome. Yeah. My final question for you guys is, if you were alive in this period of Star Wars, during the rebellion, during the Galactic War, would you rather be a Jedi or a normal rebellion soldier?
Hands down, Jedi.
Vader's coming for you.
Yeah, exactly.
That's right.
That's the
okay.
that's the trap. Do you?
I mean, as cool as the temptation would be, I would say Rebel Soldier, just to get behind the wheel of a Y-wing, or something. Try to,
Yeah, you feel a little safer from Vader in a Y-wing. Is what you're saying.
Feel safer in the air.
Yeah.
Damn you, Mark. Damn you. Damn you. Sit through the air in the safe air.
No, but to be honest, no matter what, if you're a soldier or a Jedi, every person in that rebellion has the fear that Vader's going to come through that door any minute and kill all of us.
And there's nothing you can do about it.
Nothing we can do about it.
Yeah, I would like to be a hiding Jedi because you could have the power of being a Jedi, and then I gotta hide. There's nothing I can do. So
Obi-Wan,
just in case,
or any of the surviving Jedi, just be like, whatever's going on outside, don't care.
Yeah.
Don't care.
I'm sure there's a nice tropical planet
Yeah, sure.
to just hide out on.
It's in my nature to take the risks of life, so I would have to be a Jedi.
You'd be a Jedi
I would
out
have
there
to try.
swinging your blade.
Yeah,
You'd try.
I'd try.
Yeah, I would try to be a good person like you, John.
If I didn't, I'd still be living in a small town of Virginia. It's just
Yeah.
in my nature to take chances with my life.
I would hide on a tropical planet, levitating fruit into my mouth. I should get involved. I really should get involved.
Where's that Scrimshaw
These
guy?
papayas are so good.
Papayas that I float to my mouth are so good. So that's a little bit of talk about the intersection between Rebels and Rogue One, how they might interact. We all, I think, bottom line, hope to see at least a nod to the TV show Rebels in Rogue One, since they're so connected in theme and period of time, so that we feel validated as fans. And with that, we will move on.
Now we will go to our new favorite segment. Oh, there it is.
Oh, the mind.
The Mind Probe. That's where you...
This is a different
It's a
probe
different
making
probe,
those
yes.
noises, though. I got to be pedantic.
Is that a battle droid probe?
Yeah, well, that's just the probe.
Oh,
That's the
yes.
probe droid. Yeah.
and getting shot.
Yeah.
So if you head to our Facebook page, Jedi Alliance, you'll see that we post a picture every couple of weeks called Mind Probe, where you submit your questions and we talk about them on the show. So let's get started with Mr. Justin Seiler asking, how many rats would a womp rat womp if a womp rat could womp rats?
Yeah, I feel the answer to this is very easy. It's 16.
60, yeah.
Yeah,
Sounds
because
about
the T-16 Skyhopper that Luke uses to bullseye him, so the answer's got to be 16.
I would say 7. Just randomly. Just something about
Just
that
randomly.
number.
I think you should give this question the thought it's due, John.
Womp, there it is. Terrible. I'd say 4 for episode 4.
4?
Yeah,
Oh, okay. All right.
Let's do that.
I'm estimating high. I'm going to be made a fool of when the Womp Rat revolution comes.
Jake Higgins asks, with Ezra's blaster lightsaber combo, what other crazy weapon combination would you guys like to see?
See, I thought about this one for a while, and I realized this is too dorky and weird and will probably never happen.
Exciting.
But Jedi are always losing their hands, and then replacing them with a mechanical hand. Why not just attach a lightsaber? Then you got your lightsaber
like Ash
hand.
versus the Evil Dead. Sort of,
You just got a lightsaber hand. It's going to change kind of the angle of your fighting because it's not you. It's at a different
Not
angle
just the
now.
fighting. Also the eating,
The
going
eating,
to the bathroom.
the
It's gonna
urinating
change
and
a lot of
such.
things,
Yeah, a lot of things.
Man, the middle of the night.
It's one of those things like when the first
Your
preview
love
trailer
making
came out.
might really be
The love making, you can't get excited, and ignite your hand. But when Kylo Ren's lightsaber was first revealed, I thought it looked like I was not on board because
Oh, okay.
it looked like
Yeah,
it
you
was.
didn't.
I appreciate that we want to find more new weird lightsabers or weapon combos. Is Jake's specific question is, but it felt like maybe he was trying too hard. By the time I saw the action figures, like this is so cool, and then I saw it in the movies, like it works great because it looks like it's falling apart. And I'm just kind of fascinated with how far can they push that. Like, as I say it, replacing a Jedi's hand with a lightsaber sounds like the stupidest making fun of pirates, Ash versus Evil Dead thing. But there's a part of me that believes like they could make it work.
Sure.
They would make it be the most respectable, like if Yoda, like if they make it like a wise character who's just always in their robe, and then once they sort of reveal themselves, you see that they have just lightsabers for legs and arms.
Yeah. The lightsaber fingers. Yeah.
I'm always missing the 50 cal weapon.
The
correlative 50 cal weapon.
Yeah.
And the sniper weapon. It's really rare to see the sniper weapon used in any way, shape, or form. It's always blaster stuff.
Yeah,
And
we
so I'd
see
like to
Zam
see-
Wessel in Clones with a sniper,
Yeah,
but it's not
really
much.
rare.
Yeah,
And so to see how that be more of a prevalent weapon being used. And I'll be honest with you, when I saw the Inquisitor's double saber spinning,
yeah.
that was it for me. When I saw that weapon, I was like, that is the best weapon I've ever seen in the Star Wars universe for me. I love it so much.
Yeah, so you don't think it can possibly be...
Improved upon.
Sure. The 3 extra blades on each side. I mean, that would be it.
No, just go. Let's do
Excellent.
light Wolverine claws.
Yeah,
Just
there you
it's
go.
like
Little
straight
tiny,
on. Yeah, there you go.
tiny lightsabers embedded in your flesh.
Yep.
Great.
man,
What
it's-
could possibly go wrong?
Right?
Who knows? We'll figure it out.
Did you want that burger?
Brian Trotter, known on Twitter at 40some geek. Besides the prequels, which legend characters would you like to see become canon and show up in episode 8 or the anthology series, which sort of goes to what we were talking about in the main subject?
Yeah, I have not spent as much time in the old Rebellion as I think a lot of other Star Wars fans, so I'm not as attached to some of those characters. I like Mara Jade. It would be great to bring Mara Jade back, or definitely a Mara Jade-like character. Even if she's not Luke's bride, but a character that kind of fits that archetype of a woman who has had some association with the dark side and has come to the light and is, a Jedi warrior figure who is older. Yeah. Someone Mara Jade like.
Yeah, I agree with the Mara Jade. Asajj Ventress is a possibility in my mind. I mean, is that necessarily 100%? Is she canon now because she was?
Oh, yeah. She's totally canon.
I'd rather see that. I'd rather see something like that, more exploratory. Who's the Native American Jedi? I keep forgetting his name. Who was with Asajj in that story?
Yeah.
So to me,
I always forget his name.
Those are the characters.
Quinlan Vos.
Yeah, Quinlan Vos. That's it. Yeah, I would like to. I always think Vos Water. I think it would be great to have those because those are out of the norm Jedis. And like me, I'm a fan of the Green Lantern Corps. I always love the out of the norm lanterns.
Yeah. The weirdos.
Yeah, the weirdos. They're always so much more fun to explore their worlds and how they got to where they got to because it's so different from what you're used to reading or seeing.
So are we going to get a Jedi that's an entire planet?
I think it's possible.
A Kilowog Jedi would
Do you
be
have
awesome.
you have
Really cool.
Legends characters that you like?
I mean, I'm surprised nobody said Grand Admiral Thrawn.
Thrawn.
For starters.
Right.
Or crap, I had somebody else. But Thrawn mostly. Oh, that's who it was. IG-88 B, C, and D.
Oh, okay, yeah.
So
nice.
to get a little bit of an acknowledgement of the storyline where he almost took control of the Death Star.
Okay.
I think would be a lot of fun. I like that story a lot. And I like that.
It's the basis of your IG-88 love, isn't it?
That's a lot of it.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, other than he's just a cool robot.
He is a cool robot.
A cool looking robot.
He kills real good.
He's super good. Kill. Next question comes from Hannah Aquan. I'm going to say that probably incorrectly. The rhyme of Star Wars always results in someone losing their hand in the second film of the trilogy. Do you think / want someone to lose a hand in Episode 8? Regardless, who do you think would lose a hand?
This is such a fascinating and great question to me.
Really?
Yeah, because I do want Episode 8 to rhyme with both Empire and Attack of the Clones, but I don't want it to be as on the nose as Rey is, if not literally the Skywalker figure,
Yeah.
so she has to lose her hand. So I'd be more interested in Rey being injured in some other way, or emotionally, or kind of being scarred, or tested in that way that both Luke and Anakin were.
Instead of direct decapitation, what if she just becomes paralyzed in one of her arms?
Oh,
So that she can, that way, so she does lose. She does
random
lose her.
paralysis.
She does lose her hand, but it's still there. And
Right.
It's just a constant reminder.
Right, yeah. I think for me, I would like to see, I guess what I'm getting at is I'd like to see something like that, some sort of emotional equivalent where Rey must face the same kind of test of I have been physically injured, and that could make me want to go toward the dark side, toward vengeance. But then I think somebody else should just get their hand cut off.
Yeah.
I think, and this is what I've come to, this is harsh, it's harsh, but I'm going to vote for Poe.
I was going to say Poe as well.
Interesting. What's your logic on Poe?
Yeah, what's your logic on Poe?
Make him hard to fly.
Make him hard to fly.
It would get him out of his, in a similar vein, it would get him out of his comfortable zone.
Yeah.
He'd have to find, and this sounds pretty harsh too, he would have to find a way to be useful since he's the crackshot pilot, the ace pilot. If he doesn't have an arm to get those maneuvers just right, what is he good for?
Right, well, that would be really jerky if the rule in the Star Wars galaxy is you can only get a replacement hand if you're a Jedi. So sorry, Poe, no new hand for you.
Resistance
It's not
budget.
covered. It's not covered.
Yeah,
It's not covered.
I love the story of Star Wars that physical damage to a good character reflects the trip possibly to the dark side. We're even seeing with Ezra. I think that's why Ezra has the scars. So it would be fun to see that subverted of like Poe's like I don't have a destiny. I'm not a part of the Jedi thing. I'm just really good at flying. Why did my hand get cut off?
My vote is Finn.
Okay.
And it makes the most sense to me because Daisy's too composed, or Rey is too composed, Poe is too composed. the people that get their hands cut off are the ones that run in and bite off more than they can chew.
Right.
Fight people they shouldn't be fighting because their emotions get the best of them. Finn has shown us that his emotions get the best of him all through Force Awakens in situations.
Right.
And so Anakin had the same thing. Luke had the same thing. Luke was involved. So much of the father stuff was involved in that situation. Anakin, obviously, he's angry about his mom. So Boyega, what is the situation? He was handed off to the Empire. He doesn't know who his parents are. Now I get that Rey doesn't know who his parents are either, but Rey is more of a composed character. Would not rush into danger.
Right.
He's always thinking and logically processing situations and making the right decisions every time. Even when she's like needing to be saved, she saves herself. Right. I mean, and I think Boyega, as we saw when he was fighting Kylo, he will rush into a situation without analyzing, and that's how you get your hand cut off.
Yeah.
And that's logical.
And he's already injured, so you're already a little bit down that road if they
Mm-hmm.
want to keep that strong thematic connection. That injury is a moral question.
Yeah.
Yeah, all right. Well, I think we've offered up a lot of people to have their hands severed. It's a great question.
Let's take them all out. Why not?
That is such a great question.
I would love it if it's Kylo. That would be
Kylo Ren.
everything.
Yeah, that would be great.
Right?
That would be great.
That
yeah.
would make sense in
that's
the
his.
heritage.
That's his path to the good side.
Yep.
I lost my hand.
Me too.
Yeah, and he's already scarred as well. So yeah.
Our last question comes from Stanley Wrighton. Are we going to see BB-8 using his grappling hooks to swing like Tarzan in episodes 8 or 9?
I hope so. And I think when Stanley says swing like Tarzan, they're perhaps referring to Chewbacca's yodel.
That, as well as, I figure, Indiana Jones 4.
Yes. So there's a history of this in Lucasfilm.
Yes.
I would be interested to hear what a BB-8 Tarzan yell sounds like, interpreted in BB-8 language, so that you could kind of hear it, but not. It's not
out of pure
full on.
curiosity.
Yeah. It's not a full on.
Well, he's got that high-pitched squeal. So.
Or what if he has a recording of it? Or a recording of somebody else doing it, and then he just plays it.
He's like Bumblebee.
Yeah, I don't know if I want to get him into just playing random audio clips as his way of communicating.
Well, I mean, if everything stands true to form, they're going to go to an ice planet in the second film. So they will go to a forest planet in the third film. And so that would be where BB-8 would logically be at 9, would be able to be swinging from the
So you want to hear a BB-8 yell?
I don't want to hear it, but the question is, when do you think it might happen? And my answer is episode 9.
Okay.
Yeah, but I don't want to hear it, no.
And will that toy sell? Yes. Yes, it will. And remember, you can add to the conversation by going to our Facebook page at Jedi Alliance, find the My Probe post, and leave us your questions, and we will answer it. Thank you very much for everybody who asked questions on this week's Mind Probe.
And now we move on to Duel of the Fates. The awesome, powerful music plays, and we summon the Force energy, and hopefully get nothing cut off as a result. So we always ask our Duel of the Fates questions. We pose them to you guys out on our Facebook page and collect your answers. But first, we want to ask our guest, John Rocha, about last week's question before I reveal what you guys all thought out on the internet. Our question last week, John, was, in all of Star Wars, which actor should have won an Oscar?
Ooh, wow.
Yeah, I know. Because last week we were right after the Oscars, and we were thinking, they always get snubbed acting-wise.
Wow, that's a great question.
Yeah.
I mean, my initial is Harrison, obviously, but...
For Force Awakens, or...?
For Empire.
For Empire.
Empire is, or in Jedi. I mean, he's so strong. But then Carrie Fisher, too, right? Carrie Fisher does such a great job in those movies. I would say those two are the choice. I think, wasn't Alec Guinness nominated?
Yeah, I believe so. I believe he was nominated.
Star Wars, yeah. But I would... man, that's a tough one. Those are the two choices, but... I also like Ian McDermott in the prequels. I think he did a great job, and then also in Empire in Jedi.
Well, you were right with the audience who provided all these nice suggestions. There were a lot of great suggestions. That Harrison Ford came up a lot.
I'm sure.
Ramba the Sad Ewok, there was one vote for. The Ewok who checks in on the life of the other Ewoks. That is a very moving moment. Strange move for the Academy. But the winners by a tie were Daisy Ridley and Ian McDermott.
Oh, that's fair.
A lot of mentions for Alec Guinness as well, of course. Andy Schurer said, Daisy Ridley without question. She carried large portions of the 11th most popular movie in U.S. history without saying a word. She made Rey one of the most original and exciting heroes in movies. She should be rewarded for the billions she is making Disney with her performance.
Absolutely.
Brian Trotter said Ian McDermott should have been nominated for Revenge of the Sith. His performance as Palpatine / Darth Sidious was one of the best, especially in that scene where he enticed Anakin about the power of the dark side and how it could help him save Padme. I agree with that. And finally, Stanley Wrighton said, a little facetiously, Obi-Wan should have hosted the Oscars. He could yell, "You are the chosen one" at all the winners. Not technically an answer to my question, Stanley, but very, very funny. So that's awesome.
And then as they're walking up the steps, you can go, "I have the high ground."
I have the high ground. And you tripped on your dress or your tux as you were trying to walk up the steps. This week's question. You guys ready?
Sure.
Totally.
If you could give a standalone movie to any Star Wars character, who would you want, and what would the movie's title be? Got to up the ante for these questions because all of our fans on Facebook are really good with answering, and especially if you ask for more details, they come up with funny answers.
Yeah.
And I want to read the funny answers.
Do I have to answer?
Oh, yeah.
Akbar, Rise of the Prawn. I mean, to me, there's no other thing.
Okay. So what era would Rise of the Prawn be set in?
When he was a slave, right? When he was in whose house was he in? He was a slave for somebody. It was in the book, one of the books. He was a slave.
Okay.
He started out that way. So I'd want to see him through his journey of being a slave and then embracing the rebellion, escaping, becoming, and then how he starts the process of becoming the admiral.
Didn't he have a storyline in Clone Wars where he was a royal guard?
Yeah. He's a royal guard,
Okay.
on his home planet.
Yeah.
So, but you want to see anything where he is. Yeah, I can't remember if the Akbar thing. Honestly, that story sounds familiar. I can't remember if it's Legends or not. But
there's something to be confirmed.
You're making a new film.
Yes.
This is your canon,
Yes.
damn it. And in this canon, the prawn must rise.
That's right.
Through servitude and to become a powerful admiral.
To understand both sides.
Yeah.
Because he was in servitude to the Empire.
And that's why he can see traps.
That's right.
Nice. Mark, what's
He's learned their ways.
And fraps and anything else that runs with trap.
well, it's just I started rhyming in my mind and then said I'm not going to say any of them out loud.
No. I would want an 8 Mile-esque style origin story of Elan Sleazebaggano.
Oh, nice.
How he got into Death Sticks and what he does now with his life post the bar scene in episode 2.
So do you think when Obi-Wan told him to go home and reconsider his life, he did? And
He totally did.
That was his one shot?
Yeah. That's like from that moment on, I want that character money. I want it. Netflix series. Let's go 3 series. Tie it in. I 100% want more Sleazebaggano.
Yeah, that's a great answer. Those are both great answers. My answer of who should not be surprising. And so, of course, Obi-Wan Kenobi. It's what I want more than anything in life, pretty much. And Obi-Wan, I think it could just be called Tatooine Nights, and he could just be hanging out on Tatooine. In bars. Then I was trying to think of an actual good legitimate title. It's hard.
Right.
The only one I thought of is maybe Obi-Wan The Dark Times. Because he talks about, before the dark times. So this is the dark times he's living in. Yeah. And I think if it was called Obi-Wan: The Dark Times, people would really wonder, what is this movie about? Is it about living under the darkness of the Empire, or is it just hanging out at bars?
Hanging out in the cave.
The Dark Times with Obi-Wan. Or it could be like a late night internet show.
Yeah.
The Dark Times with Obi-Wan Kenobi.
It's called James Arnold Taylor.
Absolutely.
Of which, who does the voice at the beginning of the show? I've never asked you guys this. Who does the Kenobi voice at the beginning of the show?
I don't know. It's not. It's
Sir Richard Wentworth.
Yeah, Sir Richard Wentworth. He does all of our voices for the network.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, it's pretty good.
That's
nice.
Great stuff.
Yeah. It's a great voice.
Yeah.
I'll
I'll have to take his job someday. No offense.
Put me in touch with him for Obi-Wan, The Dark Times. So that is our Duel of the Fates question. As always, we will post this on our Facebook wall tomorrow and look forward to all of your great answers of who should have their own standalone movie and what should the title be. Fellows, any final thoughts about this sort of era we're living in with Rebels and Rogue One? That you want to share? Anything that we haven't covered that you feel that people should know? You want to make weird Muppet faces at each other? If you're listening on iTunes, it's worth checking out the YouTube just to see that these guys just basically look like Bunker the Muppet each other.
I'm super excited where we're living now. I mean, because there's so much care and attention being given to the franchise in ways that were kind of outside of the mainstream for a long time, for decades. So even the Timothy Zahn stuff was all you had to really be into it and know people were into it to read it and then talk about it. You couldn't talk about it in pop culture or in mainstream conversations. At least when I was growing up, and I was growing up when this stuff was actually coming out for teenagers to get and 20-year-olds to get, and so it wasn't necessarily that. So what's happening now? I just love the fact fact that these books are mass available. The Rebels is mass available. All the films are revered in such a way.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of people who are now open to talk about it and want to have, shows like this.
Right. And with the power of Disney, the idea of, hey, a movie about little side characters.
Yeah.
That's our whole marketing machine is selling you on. It's cool to know little side characters in Star Wars. Is pretty amazing. Yeah. Any final thoughts, Mark?
I figure the way that the fandom has evolved from, oh man, these books are so great and there's so many great characters, and now that we have, you could make scores of movies, scores of TV series about every character, every aspect of different parts of the Star Wars universe, that now when we're living in a place where, well, now we have an opportunity. Who's going to be here? It's just so fun to be a fan. It's so fun to be a fan. And I'm so happy that, because when I saw that Rebels was coming out, I was like, oh, cash grab. But watching it and finding out how Star Wars it is and how much of just a well-written show it is what made me go back to the Clone Wars, because I'd only heard about the Clone Wars. And so, the Rebels has done a lot for me personally as a fan, and the fact that they have such a good team behind them is like, okay, what more can we do in this world? It's very exciting.
Awesome. John, can you tell people where they can find you on social media? Anything you want to plug?
Definitely. You can find me at The Rocha Says on Twitter and Instagram. All the shows I host, all the shows that I'm very happy to be a guest on, I always promote so that you can watch me or listen to me ad nauseum, whatever. I'm currently in negotiations right now to come back as Springload on Transformers Robots in Disguise, so hopefully that pans out. And if you're lucky enough, starting April 7th, you might stumble in and see me at Harry Potter Land. So there's all kinds of... Oh, and I just... we'll find out. I can't announce it yet, so... I might be the voice of something at the park as well.
Oh, excellent. Excellent.
But I can't say anything yet. So
I'm looking forward to that. Mark?
Me too. You can just find me wandering around Universal, because why not? It's a great place to be hanging around.
It really is.
Butterbeer in one hand, regular beer in the other. Also, later tonight, we're going to be doing a video game movie anatomy on the original Hitman from 2007, starring Timothy Olyphant. A lot of stuff to say about that, so make sure to join us live. Or if not, just join us. The show's a lot of fun. We do it every 2 weeks. We cover video game movies, and if they are in fact good movies or not. So please check us out on the Popcorn Talk Network. Joseph.
You guys can find me on all the social medias is at Joseph Scrimshaw. You can find my website at josephscrimshaw.com to find all of the other comedy and movie, TV show talking kind of stuff I'm up to. A couple things I got coming up. My personal podcast, Obsessed, which John Rocha has been on and was very funny and moving. That's coming out every week now, every Thursday. We just had an episode with another fan favorite guest, Mike Black, who talked all about action figures in his Sigourney Weaver double feature bathroom, which was a delightful treat. So please check out my other podcast, Obsessed. I'm also going to be doing some comedy and some panels at Wizard World in Las Vegas in just a couple weekends. And finally, I don't bring this up on the show a lot. I'm a contributing writer for RiffTrax, so I write jokes for RiffTrax. If you don't know what RiffTrax is, it's one of the modern incarnations of Mystery Science Theater 3000. They've been going for 10 years, and they just launched this morning a Kickstarter to do a big live show that's going to be a partial Mystery Science Theater 3000 reunion in Minneapolis that will be recorded and then broadcast to movie theaters all over the place, and a bunch of other live shows, and they are kickstarting that today. So if you like RiffTrax, please go check that out. Just go to kickstarter.com and type in RiffTrax and it will pop up. You find out information on all those things I just rattled on about at josephscrimshaw.com. Thank you for watching and or listening to Jedi Alliance. You can visit popcorntalknetwork.com to find a nice list of all the past episodes of Jedi Alliance and links to both YouTube and iTunes. Where's I can't read this without the exciting throne music. Yeah, I feel empty and fake. Very good. I feel like a real human boy again. Please also follow us on Twitter, see what it does to my voice, and Facebook at Jedi Alliance for all the us-related news. This has been Jedi Alliance on the Popcorn Talk Network. We talk movies. Thank you for listening, because many Bothans died, killed by a lightsaber that's just a dude's hand, to bring us this information.
From producers Maria Menounos, Kevin Undergaro, Phil Svitek, and the entire Popcorn Talk Network, we would like to thank you for tuning in. For questions or comments, be sure to visit popcorntalk.com. I'm Sir Richard Wentworth, and this has been a presentation of the Popcorn Talk Network.
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of the Popcorn Talk Network or its owners or principals.